بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الفهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We continue our study of chapter 6 from last section, section 12, about God, knowledge, about power of God, في قدرته تعالى. We said God's power includes everything because everything is created by Him. Then there was a kind of objection. Some people said, no, His power doesn't include human voluntary action, al-af'al al-ikhtiyariyah, because they believe in tafwiz, the idea of the Mu'tazilites. So we clarified that and we said to have free will does not mean that we are excluded from His power. It's not that the world is run in two ways, either by us or by God. We are also under His power. And we said, al-fi'lul ikhtiyari, the action which is voluntary, it's mumkin itself, but it must be under illat tammeh so that it becomes necessary. Part of illat tammeh is our free will, but part of it's God, part of it can be other things, conditions or lack of obstacles. Alhamdulillah, we clarified that. Now there is another way to show why God's power is all-inclusive. وَمِن طَرِيقٍ آخر. So we want to argue for inclusiveness of the power of God in another way. And this is based on the idea that we had from Mullah Sadra, that ma'lul is nothing other than rabt, other than relation and reliance and on the illah. Okay? So if we are ma'lul for God and we are dependent on Him, how can our actions not be dependent on Him? Everything sooner or later must depend on God. The first creature, the second creature, the third creature, all rely on Him. Al-af'al كغيرها من الممكنات معلولة. Actions like other things which are contingent are ma'lula. Anything contingent is ma'lul, otherwise it cannot exist. وقد تقدم في مرحلة العلة والمعلول. In the section on cause and effect, we said أن وجود المعلول رابط بالنسبة إلى علته. We said existence of ma'lul with respect to its cause is rabit, means is not independent, it is dependent. ولا يتحقق وجود رابط إلا بالقيام بمستقل يقومه. And no dependent existence can happen unless it depends on something independent that gives subsistence to it, keeps it there. وَلَا مُسْتَقِلَّ بِالذَّاتِ. Okay. Finally, we should reach مُسْتَقِلَّ بِالذَّاتِ, something that does not depend on anything else. It's independent. And this is nothing other than wajib بالذات, other than necessary being, which is by itself, by essence necessary. There is no mustaqil. فهو مبدأ أول لصدور كل معلول متعلق الوجود بعلة. So he is the first origin for occurrence of any effect, which we know every effect is متعلق الوجود. This قيد is for توصيف, it's not for احتراز. What is معلول? متعلق الوجود بعلة. Something that its existence belongs and depends on cause. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable over everything. Again, someone may come and raise an objection. And قُلْتَ. So we want to anticipate any question or objection. Yeah? If you say, الالتزام بعموم القدرة للأفعال الاختيارية التزام بكونها جبرية. If you say, if power of God belongs to our voluntary actions, then it means that they become predestined, means they are forced by God. Yeah? Why Mu'tazilites were insisting that our voluntary actions are not under power of God? Because they thought if they are under power of God, they would not be free. They would be predestined. فَإِنَّ لَازِمَهُ. This is the idea of this person. We don't accept this. إِن قُلْتَ. This is the idea of someone like on behalf of Mu'tazilite is talking. فَإِنَّ لَازِمَهُ. They think that if we say power of God is inclusive, it implies القول بتعلق الإرادة الإلهية بالفعل الاختياري. Will of God should belong to voluntary action. وهي لا تتخلف عن المراد. And will of God is impossible to be there and what he wants doesn't happen. So if God has will, it must happen. So what does it mean then? You say it's free. فَيَكُونُ الضَّرُورِيَّ الْوُقُوعِ. It becomes necessary. وَيَكُونُ الْإِنسَانُ مُجْبَرًا عَلَيْهِ. Man becomes مجبور لا مختارا فيه. And is not free in this action. So they think either we should say there is no will of God in this action, God has no will here, or if it has will, it becomes majbur, it's predestined. وَوَجْهٌ آخر. Another argument, still we are not answering. So there are two objections. We are anticipating two objections. One is to say that will of God makes it wajib. Another thing is knowledge. Since God knows this, it must happen. ما وقع من الفعل متعلق لعلمي. Whatever from action happens, any action that happens, is something that God, his knowledge includes and belongs to. فَوُقُوعُهُ ضَرُورِي. Because he knows it must happen. وَإِلَّا. If it doesn't happen, عَادَ عِلْمُهُ جَهْلًا. His knowledge becomes ignorance. Ta'ala and ذَلِكَ. May he be glorified. There is a poem attributed to Khayyam. Khayyam is Iranian famous poet and mathematician. It is attributed to him that he said, my drinking of khamr was known to God from Azal. And if I don't drink it now, I am making his knowledge jahl. Yeah, so he wants to say that I have to drink this out of respect for his knowledge. But this is wrong. You can decide not to drink, and then he also knew that you are not going to drink. Yes? So you are misusing. It's like saying, because this policeman knew that I am going to cross red light, I had to cross. No. He was watching you. Or based on experience, because every day you do this. Knowledge in advance doesn't mean that you are forced. وَإِلَّا عَادَ عِلْمُهُ جَهْلًا, otherwise his knowledge becomes ignorance. فَالْفِعْلُ جَبْرِيٌّ, so the action is jabri, not ikhtiyari. قُلْتُ كَلَّا, I say no. Both objections are not acceptable. The first objection was about his will. They said if will belongs will of God, it must happen. الإرادة الإلهية أنما تعلقت بالفعل على ما هو عليه في نفسه. Will of God belongs to something as it is. If something is فعل اختياري, will of God is also for it to happen as فعل اختياري. Yeah? In other words, God wants you to be free and to decide. Divine will has only belonged to the action as it is in itself. وَالَّذِي عَلَيْهِ الْفِعْلُ هُوَ أَنَّهُ مَنْسُوبٌ إِلَى الْإِنسَانِ. In this case, what the action is, that it is attributed to human being who is part of the complete cause. Yeah? الذي هو جزء علته التامة بالإمكان. And this is part of that, and it is contingent. ولا يتغير بتعلق الإرادة عما هو إليه. And by belonging of the will of God to this, it would not change. It's still what is going to be a contingent action of a human being. فقد تعلقت الإرادة بالفعل من طريق اختيار الإنسان. The will of God has belonged to the action through your choice, human freedom. You decided to do this or that, and God, based on your decision, wills it. Yeah? If you do good thing or bad thing, God is not going to stop you. God's will in our free actions is that He gives us ability to do what we want. His will follows our will here in Irade Takwini. Otherwise, if He had Irade Takwini for doing something, we had to do it. Then we were not mukhtar. Pardon? Yeah. Yeah. But that's the second thing. So about irada, his irada is that we are free. Then about knowledge, the issue is that knowledge does not force ma'loom. Ma'loom shapes knowledge, not that knowledge shapes ma'loom. وَمُرَادُهُ تَعَالَى. What is willed by God? أن يفعل الإنسان الفعل الفلاني باختياره. Allah's will is that human being does what he wants with his free will. ومن المحال أن يتخلف مراده عن إرادته. He wanted us to do this freely, and it's impossible that what he wants doesn't happen. Did you get the point? He wants us to be free, and this must happen, so we are free. But he doesn't have will for this specific choice or that specific choice. He has left it to us. Of course, he has irade tashri'i. Legislative will says, do good thing. Do this one, not the other one. But this is tashri'i. Tashri'i is just a matter of what he prefers. Like, you want your child to buy something useful. You give him money and say, buy milk, buy fruits. don't buy cigarette. Okay? So you have told him, buy this, I like this. But you give him money and let him free and let him to go to shop so that he makes his choice. Whether he buys what you told him or he buys something that you told him not to buy, in both cases, you have allowed this. Yeah? You have allowed this. He cannot say, because you allowed me, I had to do it. Or because you knew what I'm going to do, I had to do it. And he cannot say, because you wanted this and preferred this, it has happened. Because still he's open. He can do this or that. You have a question?
Yeah, so sometimes if we have an intention to do something as part of our free will, and then the will doesn't go the way you want it to go, is that...
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you are not illat tamme.
Yeah.
You are illat, you are part of the reason. So if something needs 10 things to happen or 100 things to happen, you are only one of it. But without you wanting doesn't happen. But with you wanting also it still may happen or may not happen. Yes? It's like, someone said, Alhamdulillah, our marriage is 50%, progressed. Said, how? He said, I want a girl, but she doesn't want me. So 50% is sorted. But this is not an indication of this is going to happen or whatever, because your decision is part of it. Her decision is also part of it. But even if you both want, maybe other people don't want, maybe, death is happening. So many things can happen. But yes, you have also a say here. Of course, in the discussion about Qaza wa Qadar, I said that sometimes there is a master plan that if Allah wants something to happen or not to happen, no one can change it, but still He doesn't take away your free will. He does it in the way that you freely do it, or other factors can get, for example, you died before that, so you cannot do it. But you will never be forced to do it. Yeah? You may be stopped doing something, but you will not be forced doing something. It's very important. So you are always responsible for what you have done, always. But sometimes you are not responsible for what you have not done. This is the implication of this. Because you are illat naqisa, so when it has happened, you are involved and you are responsible. But if it has not happened, maybe it was not your choice. Other factors were not there. So, for our actions, we are always responsible. But for not doing, sometimes it's because of us, sometimes it can be because of other people. It's clear? Like, for example, if we have class, all of us wanted this. But if there is no class, maybe you wanted, I didn't come. So you are not responsible. Yeah? ومن المحال أن يتخلف مراده عن إرادته. So, it's impossible that what he has wanted would disobey his will. So it must happen. This is about the issue of irada. So the answer is given. And we said, he wants, but he wants you to do it freely. What about knowledge? He has eternal knowledge. We said knowledge follows ma'loom, even if it comes before in time, but logically, ma'lul shapes the knowledge and determines, not the other way around. والجواب عن الاحتجاج بتعلق العلم الأزلي بالفعل كالجواب عن تعلق الإرادة به. The reply with respect to this, debate, the questioning about eternal knowledge of God belonging to the action, like it's like the reply to the belonging of the will of God to the action. فَالْعِلْمُ إِنَّمَا تَعَلَّقَ بِالْفِعْلِ عَلَى مَا هُوَ عَلَيْهِ. We said his irada is this action happens as it is, means with ikhtiyar. Also his knowledge is about this action happening with free will. العلم إنما تعلق بالفعل على ما هو عليه, as belong to the action as it is. وهو أنه فعل اختياري. This is a voluntary action. يتمكن الإنسان منه ومن تركه. And human beings are able to do it or not to do it. So this is part of knowledge. God knows that I am freely doing or not doing. ولا يخرج, please be careful, لا يخرج العلم المعلومة عن حقيقته. Ilm cannot take away ma'lum from its reality. If ma'lum was ikhtiyari, ilm also has to keep it ikhtiyari. Otherwise, not ilm. Ilm has to correspond to ma'lum, not ma'lum corresponds to ilm. فَلَوْ لَمْ يَقَعْ اخْتِيَارِيًا كَانَ عِلْمُهُ جَهْلًا. His knowledge was that he is doing this ikhtiyari. If it was not ikhtiyari, ilm is jahl. Not that if I don't do what he knew that I'm going to do, it's jahl. فَإِنْ قُلْتُ السلوك إلى بيان عموم القدرة من طريق توقف وجود المعلول الممكن على وجوبه بالغير وانتهاء ذلك إلى الواجب بالذات ينتج خلاف المطلوب فإن كون فعله واجبا يستلزم كونه تعالى موجبا أي واجبا عليه الفعل ممتنعا عليه الترك ولا معنى لعموم القدرة حينئذ قلت. This is another objection. If you say, okay, suppose we accepted all this, but you say, nothing happens unless it is wajib. It has become wajib. Yeah? Wajib bil ghayr. So, this means that action of God is wajib. It's zaruri, it's necessary. So it means that then God is forced to do it. Then God is majbur, mujab. God is not free. God must do it. The answer is God is not forced by his action. Actually, it is necessary because of his will. If he had not wanted, this would not have happened. If you say, enrolled, going to this account that his power is inclusive, all inclusive, through this argument, that existence of ma'lul al-mumkin, the effect it is contingent, depends on its necessity by the other. Because as-shay'u ma lam yajib, lam yujab. And this must be by something else, by something. Finally, sooner or later, we should reach God. انتهاء ذلك إلى الواجب بالذات. If you say this ينتج خلاف المطلوب would lead to an unpleasant conclusion, something that you didn't like. What is that? Explain that. He says because إن كون فعله واجبا. If you say action of God is wajib, necessary, it means that then God is mujab, means God has to do it. Do you want to say God has to do it? أي واجبا عليه الفعل. It's necessary for him to do it. ممتنعا عليه الترك. It's impossible for him not to do it. Then it means that God has no power. Because power means to do if you want and not to do if you don't want. Okay? قلت الوجوب منتزع من الوجود. Why you are going the other way around? Wujub, necessity, is abstracted from existence. When it's existing, we say before that must have become wajib. Yeah? فأوجبت فوجبت فأوجدت فوجدت. فكما أن وجود المعلول من ناحية العلة كذلك وجوبه بالغير من ناحيته. In the same way that existence of ma'lul comes from its illah, also its necessity comes from its illah. Then how can this necessity affect the illah itself? Wujud of ma'lul is preceded by wujub. Okay? Wujud comes from illah, wujub also comes from illah. من المحال أن يعود الأثر المترتب على وجود الشيء مؤثرا في وجود مؤثره. Something which has effect on something, yeah, A has impact on B. A has impact on B, but then cannot have impact on the illah. Yeah. Can something which is a lower level have impact on something which is a higher level? It's not possible. من المحال أن يعود الأثر المترتب على وجود الشيء, أثر which follows existence of something. For example, you have fire. Fire has athar, is heat. Heat comes from fire. Okay? Can heat which comes from fire have influence on the illah of fire? No. Can a grandchild have a role in the creation of the grandfather? فالإيجاب الجائي من ناحية تلا, the necessitation which comes from God to the fail to action يستحيل أن يرجع فيوجب عليه فعله. Allah necessitates this action, then how can this make God forced to do it? This cannot. We said in Dua Arafah, إلهي تقدس رضاك أن تكون له علة منك فكيف يكون له علة مني. Your pleasure is greater than being affected by you, then how can I affect it? Even God has no influence on himself, let alone I have influence on him, or my action have influence on God. So it's impossible that it goes and forces God to do something and take away from God the inclusiveness of his power, which is the same as his essence. The power of God and the essence of God are this. وَيَسْلُبَ عَنْهُ بِذَلِكَ أُمُومَ الْقُدْرَةِ, takes away from him his inclusiveness, the inclusiveness of his power, which this power is عَيْنُ ذَاتِهِ. Okay. يَتَبَيَّنُ بِمَا تَقَدَّمَ. With what we said, it became clear. أَنَّهُ تَعَالَى مُخْتَارٌ بِالذَّاتِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free essentially. It means that he decides to do, when he wants, he does it. When he doesn't want, he doesn't do it. As la ijbarah, because who is majbur? Who is forced? When something from outside forces you. If you decide, you are not majbur. If something affects your decision or forces you to do two things, there are two things. Either someone, for example, takes your hand and sign the check, You are majbur. Or someone forces you to make decision and you sign, but said, I'm going to kill you. So whether he takes your hand and sign it, or he forces your decision, anyway, you are majbur or mukrah. But anyway, you are not free that much. Of course, when you are mukrah, philosophically you are free, but morally you are not free. But in the case of God, who is there other than him that has power to force him to do something or to force him to make a decision? Yeah? Even he does not do this to himself. أنه تعالى مختار بالذات. He is essentially free. إذ لا إجبار إلا من وراء الفاعل. Because there is no ijbar unless it comes from beyond the doer. How? بحمله على خلاف ما يقتضي. To push him do what he doesn't want. Or, he says, you must do against what you want, or you must do not you want. Yeah? Hamli means to make him to do خلاف ما يقتضي, something other than what he wants. Yeah? Sometimes you want ice cream, I force you not to have ice cream. Sometimes you don't want ice cream, I force you to have ice cream. There are two ways, yeah? حمله على خلاف ما يقتضي means he wants ice cream, but he says you must not have ice cream. Or على ما لا يقتضي, he doesn't want ice cream, he says you must have ice cream. Okay? وَلَيْسَ وَرَاءَهُ إِلَّا فِعْلُ. But other than God, we have only his creatures. God and his creatures. We don't have another wajibul wujud or something higher than him. Anything is either God or his creatures. His creatures cannot have impact on him. And there is no one else. وَالْفِعْلُ مُلَائِمٌ لِفَاعِلُ. Whatever God does is suitable and matches his essence. فَمَا فَعَلَهُ مِنْ فِعْلٍ هُوَ الَّذِي تَقْتَضِيهِ ذَاتُهُ. So whatever action he has done, it is what his essence wanted and is suitable to his essence. وَيَخْتَارُ بِنَفْسِهِ. God chooses this himself. So he is free. So because he's free, then he has power. Because if he was not free, we don't say power. I told you at the beginning. Engine, we don't say in philosophy, we don't say engine has power. Because power means you can do when you like and you can stop doing if you don't like. كون الفاعل بحيث إذا شاء فعل وإذا لم يشاء لم يفعل. الحمد لله رب العالمين.